The waiting is finally over. If you've been checking your bank account wondering when your Social Security payment will arrive, we've got critical information you need to hear right now. The Social Security Administration just released an urgent late-night update that confirms a new deposit batch is scheduled to hit accounts tomorrow. And this isn't your typical payment cycle. What makes this announcement so significant is the timing and the specific group of beneficiaries affected. According to the SSA's official payment schedule, this batch includes supplemental payments, delayed deposits from previous months, and adjustments that thousands of seniors have been waiting weeks to receive. We're talking about real money that's been held up due to processing delays, system updates, and benefit recalculations that started back in early January. Whether you're receiving retirement benefits, disability insurance, or supplemental security income, this update could mean the difference between getting your payment on time or facing another week of uncertainty. We're breaking down exactly who qualifies for tomorrow's deposit, what amounts you can expect, and why the SSA chose this specific date to process these payments. Let me start by explaining what's really happening behind the scenes at the Social Security Administration right now, because this isn't just another routine payment announcement. The SSA has been working overtime to process a backlog of payments that accumulated over the past several weeks, and tomorrow's deposit batch represents a significant effort to get beneficiaries the money they've been entitled to receive. This comes at a time when millions of seniors across the United States are dealing with rising costs for everything from groceries to prescription medications, making every single payment more critical than ever before. The Social Security Administration operates on a very specific payment schedule that most people are familiar with. If you were born between the 1st and 10th of any month, your payment typically arrives on the 2nd Wednesday. If you were born between the 11th and 20th, you get paid on the 3rd Wednesday. And if your birthday falls between the 21st and 31st, your payment comes on the 4th Wednesday of each month. But what we're seeing tomorrow is something different, something that falls outside this normal pattern, and that's exactly why so many seniors have been confused and concerned about when their money will actually arrive. Tomorrow's batch includes several categories of payments that have been delayed for various legitimate reasons. First, we have beneficiaries who experienced processing delays due to the annual cost of living adjustment that went into effect in January. When the SSA implements these COLA increases, their systems need to recalculate millions of individual benefit amounts, and sometimes certain accounts get flagged for manual review. This doesn't mean there's anything wrong with your claim or eligibility. It simply means that your particular situation required a human being to verify the calculations before releasing the funds. These reviews have now been completed, and if you were affected, your payment is scheduled to arrive tomorrow with any retroactive amounts you're owed from earlier in the month. Another group included in tomorrow's deposit batch consists of seniors who had changes to their Medicare Part B premiums. As you probably know, most Social Security beneficiaries have their Medicare premiums automatically deducted from their monthly payments. When there are adjustments to these premiums, whether increases or decreases, the Social Security Administration has to recalculate your net payment amount. In some cases, particularly when seniors enrolled in new Medicare Advantage plans or changed their prescription drug coverage during the open enrollment period that ended in December, these premium changes took longer to process than expected. The SSA has been working diligently to reconcile all these accounts, and tomorrow's payment batch will reflect the correct premium deductions along with any adjustments needed to make your account current. We're also seeing payments in this batch for beneficiaries who recently had their disability benefits converted to retirement benefits. This transition happens automatically when you reach full retirement age while receiving Social Security disability insurance. The conversion process should be seamless. But in reality, there are often delays as the system switches you from one program to another. Some people experienced gaps in their payments during this transition, and the SSA is now catching up on those missed payments. If this applies to your situation, you should see not only your regular monthly amount, but also any back payments you're owed from the transition period. Supplemental Security income recipients are another major group represented in tomorrow's deposit batch. SSI payments normally arrive on the 1st of each month, But when the first falls on a weekend or holiday, the payment is moved to the last business day of the previous month. This creates some confusion in the payment calendar, and occasionally, adjustments or corrections to SSI payments get processed in separate batches. If you receive SSI and notice that your recent payment was lower than expected, or if you were notified about a change in your living situation that affects your benefit amount, tomorrow's deposit could include the difference you're owed. Let's talk about the amounts you can expect to see, because this is obviously the question on everyone's mind. For standard retirement benefits, the average monthly payment in 2025 is approximately $1,976, but this varies significantly based on your work history and the age at which you started claiming benefits. If you delayed claiming until age 70, your payment could be substantially higher, potentially exceeding $3,000 per month. Tomorrow's batch will include these regular amounts for people whose payments were delayed, but many beneficiaries will also see additional funds deposited to cover the gap from when they should have been paid originally. The cost of living adjustment for 2025 was 2.5%, which might not sound like much, but for someone receiving the average benefit, this translates to an increase of about $50 per month. If your COLA-adjusted payment was delayed and you're receiving it tomorrow, you should see this increase reflected in the amount. Additionally, if you were supposed to receive the adjusted payment earlier in January but didn't due to processing delays, you'll get the retroactive difference added to tomorrow's deposit. This means some people could see several $100s more than their typical monthly amount when they check their bank accounts. For those of you who had Medicare premium adjustments, the math gets a bit more complicated. The standard Medicare Part B premium for 2025 is $185 per month for most beneficiaries. But if you're a higher income earner, you might pay more through the income-related monthly adjustment amount, known as IRMA. If your income situation changed, perhaps you retired recently, or had a significant decrease in your earnings, you may have filed for a reconsideration of your IRMA determination. When these requests are approved, the SSA has to go back and recalculate several months of payments, refunding the excess premiums that were deducted from your Social Security checks. Tomorrow's batch includes these refunds for people whose IRMA appeals were recently processed and approved. Now, I want to address something that causes a lot of anxiety among Social Security beneficiaries, and that's the question of why payments get delayed in the first place. The Social Security Administration is managing one of the largest benefit programs in the world, sending out payments to more than 70 million Americans every single month. The infrastructure required to do this is incredibly complex, involving coordination between the SSA, the Treasury Department, and thousands of financial institutions across the country. When you multiply this complexity by the sheer number of people being served, even a small glitch or processing delay can affect thousands of beneficiaries. Recent system upgrades have also contributed to some of the delays we've been seeing. The SSA has been working to modernize its technology infrastructure, which is absolutely necessary given that some of their systems were built decades ago. However, during these transition periods, there can be temporary disruptions in payment processing. The good news is that these upgrades will ultimately make the system more reliable and efficient, reducing the likelihood of delays in the future. But for right now, the SSA is focused on clearing the backlog and ensuring that everyone receives the money they're entitled to, which is exactly what tomorrow's deposit batch is designed to accomplish. Another factor that's been affecting payment timing is the increased scrutiny on fraud prevention. The Social Security Administration has been under pressure from Congress and watchdog agencies to tighten security measures and prevent improper payments. While this is obviously important to protect the integrity of the program and ensure that benefits go to the people who truly deserve them, it has resulted in more accounts being flagged for verification. If your payment was held up for identity verification or validation of your banking information, and you successfully completed that verification process, your payment will be included in tomorrow's batch along with any amounts you missed while the verification was pending. Let me also explain what you should do if you're expecting a payment tomorrow but don't see it in your account. First, remember that deposit times can vary depending on your financial institution. Some banks process incoming deposits early in the morning, while others might not show the funds in your account until later in the day or even the following business day. The SSA sends the payment instructions to the Treasury Department, which then distributes the funds to banks, and each bank has its own processing schedule. So if you don't see the money first thing in the morning, don't panic immediately. Give it until the end of the business day and check again the next morning if necessary. If tomorrow comes and goes without any deposit showing up in your account and you were expecting to be part of this batch based on the categories I've described, then you'll want to take action. The first step is to check your My Social Security account online. If you haven't created an account yet, this is something every beneficiary should do because it gives you access to your payment history, benefit verification letters, and the ability to update your information. In your online account, you can see exactly when the SSA sent your payment and the amount that was sent. This will tell you whether the issue is on the SSA's side or potentially a problem with your bank. Speaking of banking issues, it's worth mentioning that some payment delays occur because of problems with the account information on file with the Social Security Administration. If you recently changed banks or opened a new account and submitted a direct deposit form to the SSA, make sure that process was completed successfully. Sometimes these forms get lost in the mail or contain errors that prevent the update from going through. If your payment was sent to an old account that's been closed, the funds will be returned to the SSA and you'll need to contact them to have the payment reissued to your current account. This can add several more days to the process, which is frustrating, but it's a situation that can be resolved with a phone call to Social Security. For those of you who still receive paper checks instead of direct deposit, tomorrow's batch will mean that checks are being mailed out rather than deposited electronically. I cannot stress enough how much better it is to switch to direct deposit if you haven't already done so. Paper checks can get lost in the mail, stolen from mailboxes, or delayed by postal service issues that are completely outside the SSA's control. Direct deposit is not only faster and more secure, but it also means you'll get your money on the actual payment date rather than having to wait for the check to arrive and then take it to the bank. If you're receiving a paper check from tomorrow's batch, you should see it in your mailbox within 3 to 5 business days. But again, I strongly encourage you to make the switch to electronic payments. Now let's talk about what this payment batch means for your financial planning going forward. If you've been waiting for a delayed payment and it's arriving tomorrow, you might be tempted to spend that money immediately on bills or expenses that have been piling up. That's completely understandable, but I want to encourage you to take a moment to verify the amount and make sure everything is correct before you start allocating those funds. Look at your payment stub if you receive one, or check the details in your My Social Security account and confirm that the deposit matches what you were expecting. If the amount seems wrong, either too high or too low, don't spend it right away. Contact the Social Security Administration to clarify the payment before you use those funds, because if there was an overpayment and you spend money you weren't entitled to receive, you could be required to pay it back later. For beneficiaries who are receiving retroactive payments or adjustments, this could mean a significantly larger deposit than your normal monthly amount. While it's exciting to see that extra money in your account, remember that this is a one-time catch-up payment, not your new permanent benefit level. Make sure you understand which portion is your regular monthly benefit and which portion represents back payments or adjustments. This will help you budget appropriately and avoid the disappointment of expecting a large payment again next month when things return to the normal payment schedule. The Social Security Administration has indicated that they're committed to preventing these kinds of delays from happening in the future, but realistically, with a program this large serving this many people, there will always be occasional processing issues. The key is to stay informed about your benefits, monitor your payments regularly, and know how to get help when something doesn't seem right. Tomorrow's deposit batch is the SSA's way of making things right for the beneficiaries who experience delays this month. And while it's unfortunate that these delays happened in the first place, the important thing is that the agency is following through on its commitment to get you the money you've earned and deserve.